The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Jurassic World, where we'll discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings of this fantastic movie. Joining me today on the panel are Father Michael Gossett. Hi, Father Michael.
How's it going, Dom?
Very well, thanks. And Thomas Sanherho. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, Dom. It's good to be back.
Yes. Before we get into it, I want to mention, folks, if you can, please go to Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from, and write a review of Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. We greatly appreciate it. That gooses the algorithm, helps show the podcast to other people who might be interested in the sorts of podcasts that you like. So we really do appreciate it. And if you could share the podcast with friends who would be interested in that sort of thing. Thomas, as you said, it's been a while since the three of us have been together to talk about the Jurassic Park series of movies. In fact, it's, as we record this, been almost a year since we did.
It's almost like the big break they took between the movies, right?
Right. Not quite as long. Jurassic World came out in 2015. Jurassic Park 3 was 2001. So it took them a while. In fact, it was interesting to read. I was reading up on it, how they got between the Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World. There was a lot of passing it back and forth, different people writing stuff. But what I found interesting is the basic idea of, one, a fully functional dinosaur park, two, a human who trains dinosaurs, and three, a dinosaur that escapes and eats humans, although that's not exactly original. All of those things originated with Steven Spielberg's original ideas for Jurassic Park 4. So
right.
Those kind of stay with it, which I think was a good thing, eventually.
I think we needed to see, in this movie, we needed to see a functional park. That really needed to happen.
Right. We'd seen enough of the people who had been trying to build a park, but this is, okay, they got there. And we could talk about the plausibility or the suitability of such a thing, but to kind of place it in the time of the movie, Jurassic World takes place 22 years after the events of Jurassic Park 1. So in the Jurassic Park world, and I think it might even in reality, it might even in reality be 22 years. So it's the same, 93 to 2015. Mm-hmm. So this is, by the way, the highest grossing movie of the Jurassic Park franchise. So,
interesting.
They made more on this than even the first one, even adjusted for inflation, all that. When we talk next about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, we'll see why that one didn't reach the heights. Yeah. But we're still waiting to see. They have promised a Jurassic World 3, so we'll see how that goes. So the one thing I want to say, sort of in the introduction to this, is sort of lay the groundwork, is the director's Colin Trevorrow, who that name has been bandied about, by the way, in recent years in some of the biggest franchises. He was supposed to make Rise of Skywalker at one point and was replaced by J.J. Abrams, which was interesting, and no one really talks about why, but he's used to working on big franchises and big movies, and he said that in this movie, the Indominus Rex, which is the big synthetic hybrid dinosaur that's at the center of the craziness, is symbolic of consumer and corporate excess. And here's a quote from him. He says, "The dinosaur was, quote, meant to embody humanity's worst tendencies. We're surrounded by wonder, and yet we want more, and we want it bigger, faster, louder, better. And in the world of the movie, the animal is designed based on a series of corporate focus groups," end quote. That sounds about right.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue with him.
So we could explore that as we go through. But first, I want to get your first, your overall impression. What do you think? Did you enjoy this movie? And where do you place it in the pantheon of we'll leave Fallen Kingdom off for a second, of the four movies? Where do you place this? Thomas, why don't we start with you? What did you think of it, and where do you place it?
I like this movie. It's definitely better than Jurassic Park 2. It's arguably as good as Jurassic Park 3, but it falls short of the first one. And it's really because the social commentary is not subtle at all.
Yeah.
And it hits so hard in the first half of the movie, and then the second half of the movie just devolves into chaos.
Right.
And that's one of the things. The first movie was so beautiful for the fact that it could keep the commentary running all through the chaos that ensues. And this one just doesn't. This one just kind of like goes to a visual fest of like how much different crazy stuff can we do, and tries to bring itself back at the end, but can't manage it.
Right. The first one has Ian Malcolm to provide his commentary, and kind of paired up with, not necessarily in contrast to, but paired up with Sam Neill's character, which
Alan
I'm not
Grant.
Alan Grant. Thank you.
Mhm.
And kind of paired up. They're not the same, but yet they pair up, and it's that duo, their commentary throughout. Even as you have the high energy, the dinosaurs chasing and eating and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Whereas, this one, you have the second half of this movie where it's running and screaming and scary dinosaurs, which is great. But as Father, where do you put this? What do you think of the movie overall, and where do you put this in the pantheon?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Thomas that definitely better than 2. And I would say I enjoy it a lot because, like you said, it came so long after we had seen a Jurassic Park movie, and it had a lot of magic to it. I like Chris Pratt a lot.
Yep.
And there's a lot of great moments in this. To me, none of these other movies will ever measure up to the original.
Right.
And I was watching this tonight, and it makes me think of Jaws. That in Jaws you barely see the shark, and in Jurassic Park, the original, they really take their time on revealing dinosaurs in their fullness. That you don't see the T-Rex for a long time, and in this one you get right to it pretty quick. And I would say that maybe that's just a sign of how movies have changed since the original. This is very much in the world of the Avengers and just so many things where it is a visual. It's amazing. It looks great. But it doesn't have sort of that terrifying magic and slowness of the original.
Exactly.
I think part of it too is we've already seen the dinosaurs. Like, it's not in the first one, we'd never seen anything like that before. Like, they had really broken new ground. But now, they hold back a little bit. Like, we don't see the Indominus Rex in its fullness for like 20 minutes, I think. I mean, it's a while, and not as long as for the original movie. But one of the things that the original movie had was the wonder of it all. The kids, every Jurassic Park movie to be good has to have a couple of kids who are precocious and cute and wonderful, and and they have to be in a little bit of danger, but they also have to be joy. They have to be that sense of wonder for us. We have to see the world through their eyes. This one had the kids, but I don't think there was as much wonder. And again, we can talk about that as we go. But I really enjoy it. I think you're right, because of when this is made, but also because it's the fourth movie. We lack a little bit of that initial awe, and I think because it's so much easier to make the amazing CGI dinosaurs, that part of the reason they held back a little in the first one is because they didn't want to pull the curtain back too far and have you see the wizard behind the curtain, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I think there was some of that, but this one, I really enjoy this one. I really like Chris Pratt, just as Chris Pratt.
I always Chris Pratt's definitely the best part of this movie.
One of the things that really is interesting about this movie, and you can tell me if you feel this is true of the other three that we saw in this movie. The human beings really don't do anything. They don't solve anything. All of the true action, all of the resolution comes from dinosaurs fighting dinosaurs. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never thought of it that way. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Well, and I think because one of the underlying themes that I really like that gets played well is the weaponizing of biological elements. And And you see that towards the end is that, okay, we can't solve this. Like, as humans, this is not going to be something that we can solve. And so what do? Well, they fix it by weaponizing the nature against itself, or against what they had made out of nature. And that really, I think that was a great way to kind of wrap that theme up. And that is probably my favorite string of things that happens in the movie.
So let's get into what happens in the movie a little bit and talk about it. Essentially ignores the events of Jurassic Park 1 and 2 and 3, only because those movies happened on a separate island. This is, we're back to the original island of Jurassic Park 1. And we have this dramatic beginning with the hatching of an egg. Again, this idea of the creation of dinosaurs, the recreation of dinosaurs. Was that an Indominus Rex that was hatching? Do you guys get a sense of that?
I thought they were raptors, but I don't know if that was very clear.
Okay. No, I think it's supposed to be them because there's the two and they're siblings. And so we kind of start with those two siblings, and then she ends up eating her sibling later. And so I think that's what we're seeing is they're hatching.
That makes sense.
Yeah, just like the Velociraptor in 1 ate its killed its sibling, just like that. That was interesting. I did like that next shot where we have that foot, boom, in the snow, and they pull back. It turns out it's a bird foot, so that whole dinosaur's turned into birds. That
good. Got a laugh in the theater. I remember. When this came out, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So we have the stereotypical, the super smart younger brother, almost maybe autistic on the spectrum.
Yeah,
somewhat.
It seems like it. It definitely has some of those attributes where he's like got a lot of numbers in his head about everything, and and the mom seems to know it and deals with it pretty well by like pushing the numbers thing for him.
But he has his emotional reactions are younger. They feel like he has those emotional reactions. And then you have the sulking older brother who's a teen. He just the very stereotype. And being sent off by their parents at Christmas time on this vacation to Jurassic World, where their aunt runs it, which is that'd be kind of cool actually if your aunt ran Disney World, that sort of thing. So a couple of interesting lines as the mom sends them off. Remember, if something chases you, run. Ha ha. And I'm like, who would?
It's not like there's a pattern here.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's talk about the plausibility here. Who would ever go to Jurassic World? Like, what kind of crazy person would you have to be? Never mind, go to send your kids off to Jurassic World. It just, after everything that's happened, the idea that such a thing could happen. Now, I'm glad that they kind of wave a hand at that and move on, because then we wouldn't have the movies. But from a plausibility standpoint, I don't think so.
It's interesting though, because I don't know. We have all these stories of wild animals in other countries that we go and visit at the zoo all the time. So I think that to some degree they had to have been able to recover from the first failure, but for it to happen as quickly as it did, because it seems like this is a well-established park that it's been running for years, that people are kind of jaded about it because it's been on for a while. Although I question that throughout the movie, because she says that satisfaction ratings are at like 90, which is if 90% of people are happy with their experience, how are we like really trying to make a new new attraction here?
Right.
But I they must have had a great PR team, and I would say that the other two events on the other island probably never made press, other than the T-Rex getting loose
in San
Francisco. Yeah.
So maybe that was good publicity. I don't know.
Maybe it was. Maybe like, wow, look at how amazing this. And apparently, I'm just running with the alternate universe theory here, because it's like, well, people just need more excitement from this thing. It's freaking dinosaurs, right?
Right.
Come on, guys.
It's true. It's true.
I do like that we start with the park just running.
Yes.
We've had so much origin story again and like 3 times. But just to like, oh, this is what John Hammond dreamed of, and we get to just be in it. Especially, it's really like pleasant, the whole beginning, going through and seeing the very Disneyfication of this
Right.
ridiculous idea.
Yeah, I mean, you have a Hilton hotel, and you have a Starbucks, and you have,
Right.
like these very banal corporate things, and just like, it's just a vacation. This is what people do, and I remember particularly things like the people canoeing on the river as the dinosaurs are there, and or the well, and we'll talk about some of the other attractions when we get to them, but just how kind of banal it is, just how kind of it is what it is, sort of, that people are used to it. So the boys, they show up. Claire is their aunt, and she's too busy. So we get this personality from her, that she's very business. She's very locked down. She's all about numbers. She's not really good with people, especially with her nephews. And she sends her assistant to go pick them up. I do notice that the assistant on the monorail, as they coming from the ferry, is reading Ian Malcolm's book. And in fact, we see Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum, his book, it is like his author photo on the back of a book several times, actually, in the movie, and like one in the operations center. And so I find that kind of funny that they included that. That was really a nice touch.
Yeah. There are lots of great little throws to the first movie. Where I think one of my other favorites was in the petting zoo, when one of the little girls touches the nose of of one of the small long necked dinosaurs, and it gets snot all over her. And I'm like, yes, there you go.
Yeah, there was that. There's a couple of times where it was very clearly a throwback to the original, not just when they go into the original parks center, that's all been grown over that, but I mentioned, like, the corporate logos, the corporatization, and it lends a certain middle class banality to it, if you know what I mean. It's Disney World where the rides can eat you. In fact, I think that's Jeff Goldblum's line from Jurassic 1. And Claire, she's giving a tour to some executives from Verizon who are thinking of sponsoring a dinosaur, because we want to put our name on it. And so, and she says, let's face it, no one's impressed by dinosaurs anymore. I'm like, what kind of stupid world do you live in?
Right, exactly. But you see that too. You see it with the older brother. He's like, he's bored. And I'm how are you bored? How are you bored? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and that is also a bit of a commentary on us, aren't we? We want our movies to be bigger, and we want them to be, new, and we don't want them to be throwbacks. I'm thinking of a particular large franchise that takes place far away, a long time ago, but where it's got to be all new. We can't recycle anything, and this is too new, and we just get so jaded about the spectacle, and we forget the wonder of it all. And I think that's part of it. Our entertainment has always got to be hyped up bigger and bigger, and if I could kind of bring it around to things like faith, I find maybe this is part of our problem with empty pews on Sunday mornings, where going to mass is not a spectacle. It's kind of boring in some cases. It's you have some guy talking at you. Sorry, Father, and you have some music you have some music that you may not care for, and you sit in the pew and I mean, for me, obviously the three of us understand the majesty and the wonder of what's going on. But for most people, maybe they just don't. All they see is how boring it is, and they've lost the sense of the wonder. That's what I was thinking as I was watching this.
I think a lot of us we go from experience to experience, like looking for the rush of. This whole movie made me think of something like bungee jumping or skydiving, like something dangerous but controlled, where like I'm gonna risk my life. And even a roller coaster, it's sort of like that they get bigger and bigger and faster and higher, that we want to feel like we're in danger but be in control of it, and this shows how that line is easily gone over.
Yes, that's true.
Well, and see that's what's so interesting to me about this movie is, like, from a metacognitive standpoint, like when you look at it from the outside and you go, wow, this movie is a train wreck about halfway through, like it loses all sense of control. And I want to say, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, they did that on purpose, right? But it almost feels like they just lose any sense of being able to keep a plot pacing after the Indominus Rex gets out, and it just
it just
goes wild.
Goes from experience to experience, from crazy moment to crazy moment, right?
Yeah,
it so fits with the commentary that I almost wonder, like you said, if that might not have been intentional,
right?
But maybe not. Maybe they unintentionally stumbled into demonstrating that very idea. The other thing that we get is with this hubris moment. It's not enough to. I think I forget who says it, but it's not enough to find more species. Now they are manipulating genetics to make them bigger, louder, more teeth. And as we get later on, we're told, look, none of this isn't nature we're seeing here. This is everything we see is fake. This is just we're manipulating everything and calling it, we're resurrecting the dinosaurs, but these are not the dinosaurs from 65 million years ago. This is something new that we've created, and the Indominus Rex, which is nothing from the Jurassic era, is a prime example of that. We've created this monster literally to attack us. So we have, by the way, speaking of genetics and geneticists, we have B.D. Wong showing up as the only actor from the original, coming back. He's Dr. Henry Wu. In the original, in Jurassic Park 1, he was kind of a benign character. It seemed like a nice guy. In this one, he is not. He comes across as sinister. And in fact, I kind of felt like I could see his character from Mr. Robot. Did either of you watch Mr. Robot?
I haven't watched that. I need to.
Yeah. I won't spoil anything, but he's the bad guy in Mr. Robot. Like, he plays a bad guy, and really well. Like, he's really good in it. That comes through here, so I could see that playing off here. So it becomes very interesting. Let's see. One of the things I thought as they were going through the park was how great of a place this would be, even without any dinosaurs. Like the exhibits, the rides, they were all so cool, even if you didn't have dinosaurs. Like, someone should build that. But
or even with animatronic dinosaurs, just with with not real dinosaurs, but that are scaled and everything to the right size.
I would definitely go to that if that existed in the world today.
Totally do that. Yeah. So keeping in mind that Universal owns Jurassic, not Disney, and Disney's the one who builds these giant parks. But Universal Studios, come on, Universal, you've got your park there. Anyway, we another kind of a symbolic moment for me, I felt like, was when Claire finally runs into her nephews and they say hello in the big central building, and there's this huge hologram that the kids can make of, can display of a dinosaur walking. It's very realistic. Claire walks right through it, without even pausing, without even seeing it, which to me symbolizes how Claire has become blasé, again, and inured to the wonder of it all, just like the consumers that she was talking about earlier, who don't even care about the dinosaurs they have. They need bigger, better dinosaurs. So I thought that was another interesting, almost heavy-handed on the director's part, but still, it's there. We also have a return of an eccentric billionaire. In this case, a different one. Simon Masrani is the owner of Jurassic. I guess he's the chairman of InGen now, that to replace
I think that seems like the position he's taken, like taking over for John Hammond, and that's how it's been passed on to him.
And he maintain it. Yeah, he comes across as very much like about the experience, about are people having fun? Are the dinosaurs happy? Where Claire is all about the numbers and satisfaction ratings and attendance, and she's very businessy, and he's very, hey, lighten up. I have to point to one behind the scenes thing. The co-pilot of the helicopter, the helicopter instructor, was Patrick Crowley, one of the producers of the movie. So
cool.
There are a number of cameos of people in the movie. That
was a good cameo.
Yes. We get.
I like this. This character is an interesting one because I have actually met people like this in my life. My dad works for oil and energy business, and he runs into a lot of these guys. He's general manager for some of the companies that they run, and as much as you might think, there's not really people like that in the world, I can promise you that there are people like that in the world, and I have met a few of them.
Spare no expense, just like John Hammond said too. Spare no expense. It's all about the experience. Make sure you're doing it just the top of the line.
And they make money, they make money doing it. They don't take a break. They go for the risk, and the risk ends up paying off for them a lot of the time. And then sometimes it doesn't, but they're willing to just get back up and keep running.
Right. Just like this guy takes risks.
Yeah. I like that Masrani kind of channels John Hammond, and like he's interested in the awe and wonder of it.
Yes.
But also I like that there seems to be that other faction of InGen represented by the military guys that like they have a whole nother motive for this, but I like that he's just kind of out there pushing this as a cool thing. Right. Because he has the money to do it.
Yes. So we get to the big one, the Indominus Rex, which I like when Owen Grady later on will kind of joke, you'll laugh at the name, like, come on. And we find out it's been focus grouped. It's the things kids can say, and it sounds cool. Yeah. So we get to the Indominus Rex enclosure. Again, we get that Steven Spielberg maxim: don't show the goods right away, hold back. Of course, this one they don't hold back as long, but they've held back a little bit. It's bigger than he expected. It's more intelligent. It began anticipating where the food was coming from and attacked the handlers. We have that line, and we see where it was breaking the glass. So Masrani, they want to open up the attraction, but Masrani's a little cautious. He wants Owen Grady, this Navy veteran who's working with the Velociraptors. He wants him to sign off on it because he feels more confident than that on that. And he's working in a different part of the island on a different project. And that's when we meet Grady, where he's working with the Velociraptors, who more than anything, even more than the T-Rex that shows up on the posters, the Velociraptors are really Jurassic Park, the movie, in my view. If you're gonna have
I agree.
If you're gonna have a Jurassic movie, you have to have raptors. And he demonstrates this control over them. They respond to him, but there's still
he's clicker training them too, and he's doing it right. Like it's actual clicker training. I'm like, this is so great. That's really how it works. So
just like if they were dolphins or seals, at the trained seals and stuff. Yes, exactly. And he's respecting them. We get this. They're still wild animals. They're not completely under his control. I like that. We get this idea, and also that just how they move. We get very much that bird-like movement from them. Some fans complain that why don't they have feathers? Remember, we saw in Jurassic 3 that they had these feathery because they became birds, and science tells us now, that maybe dinosaurs actually did have certain feathery bits on their skin that didn't get preserved in most fossils. And I saw someone else point out, but remember, these aren't real velociraptors. These are creations in a lab. And that's maybe why they didn't have it. So I like that bit.
Well, they did have to. They kind of explained that before. They had to mix amphibian blood in with the with the dinosaur blood to make it, or with the dinosaur genes to make it work. So I think that you're probably going to lose some traits doing that, which makes sense.
And then they gain some in the Indominus Rex, as we hear about later. The ability to camouflage. What was the other ones? And the ability to mask its thermal signature.
Right.
Which cool. Super powered dinosaur. So then comes Hoskins, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, who I'll watch Vincent D'Onofrio read the phone book. He is awesome.
I agree 100%.
Everything he does is amazing. He's incredible. And he shows up as InGen's head of security, and he's got this side project going with Dr. Wu on developing the dinosaurs for use in the military. And he keeps talking about how cool would it be to drop these velociraptors into Tora Bora, which was a cave complex in Afghanistan where the Taliban were holed up in real world around that time. And so he's like, as you think about it, you're like, wow, that sounds horrific. That sounds horrible. What would happen?
Perfectly captures the craziness of that idea that he is full on from the moment you see him. He says, this is a great idea and we're going to do it, and is not prepared for how bad it goes.
Yeah. Well, and like so many of those guys, he admires Owen's character. He's
Right.
just watching. The awe from him is, wow, we can control these animals. Look at this guy who's so much what I would like to be, controlling these animals, and
Right.
That's not really what you want.
Yeah. Well, and he imagines that I can do that, like, which
Right.
to bad effect later on,
Yeah.
which is his downfall. But yeah, it's this hubris, but also there's this kind of crazy glee that we see in Hoskins, even as people are dying. He's watching people die, but he sees it as an opportunity. This is my chance. It's kind of disturbing to watch, even more so than dinosaurs just doing what they do. This is what they're eating machines. No, but Hoskins, he's bad. He's evil in that sense. So Grady says that Masrani's goal, in response to Hoskins' desire to use them for military operations, Grady says that Masrani's goal with the dinosaurs is to teach humility in the face of nature to humanity, which is an interesting idea that that we think we're at the top of the food chain. And if you think about it, if dinosaurs did come back and dinosaurs did what we see was done in 4 movies, we'd have to acknowledge we're no longer maybe the top of the food chain on this planet, and that would maybe lead to some humility in the face of nature. So kind of interesting. We get this, of course, we get a scene where Grady has to save someone falling into the raptor's cage, which is a fun scene, a fun moment. And then we get the full awe of Jurassic World, and we see they did film the outdoor scenes, by the way, at a closed Six Flags in New Orleans.
Interesting.
That makes sense. Okay,
that main area. They filmed some of it, like especially the final fight, indoors in a studio, but the outdoor shots with all the extras, that was at Six Flags in New Orleans. And I like that we have like the stuff with the dinosaurs, and Grady and Claire and Hoskins, interspersed with scenes of the boys having fun at the park and ditching their handler, the assistant.
Yeah.
And the moment that the older brother, Zach, finally gets into it is the Mosasaurus, the big water gator shark thing. Now, did you know
eats a shark?
Yes, a great white shark.
They're dangling a great white over its tank, and it comes up, and that's the moment where you just I think it puts everything in perspective. Like even for us as viewers, going, oh yeah, this is cool. Oh yeah, this is cool. Oh yeah, this is cool. And then the great white shark gets just dangled over this cage, and then a huge maw just comes up and swallows the whole thing.
I remember seeing that on in the commercials and the trailers, and being like, that was the moment. I'm like, I gotta see that. I gotta see that.
Absolutely.
So, Colin Trevorrow I remember saw him doing an interview alongside Steven Spielberg, who's executive producer on the movie, and the interviewer asked him, was that a message to Steven? Like your dinosaur swallowing a great white shark? And he's like, I never thought of that. No, Steven, that was unintentional. That was not me like drinking your milkshake. No. It was, I thought it was funny. But and then we get the moment where Claire goes to Grady, and we get this whole thing. This is where the romantic thing comes in. This relationship that they went on a date once and it didn't work out, which is, it's. Did it add to the movie? I don't know. It kind of felt silly
because like there was a plot string about relationships that I think could have been handled a lot better. And I think it just gets lost in all the action. But, because you got the kids' parents are having problems. The kids are having problems. Claire is having problems with everybody. And, and then you got Grady, who seems to be the only one that actually understands relationships. And his relationships are all with dinosaurs.
Yeah, he doesn't quite understand relationships with women, I think. It didn't work out too well with him. He wasn't doing too good there. Yeah. So she convinces him to come take a look at the Indominus Rex enclosure, and he's like, "I know what you're doing wrong. You can't feed this thing from its only relationship," as he says, because it's isolated. You're gonna make it crazy. You do this to animals in zoos. They make them crazy. its only relationship was with the crane that lowers its food in, and so they try to feed it, and then it doesn't show up, and they think it got out. It made these marks on the wall to make it look like it got out. So they go inside, Grady and these two workers, to check it out, and Claire's on her way back to operations, and they're like, "Hey, turn on the tracker, find out where it is. It got out." Like, wouldn't you know? Like, that thing is not going to just like lope around. But okay. And they're like, it's inside the house, in the basement. That the classic, bad guy is in the house sort of thing.
What's with the communications in this movie too? There's so many points where things break up, and I'm just like, this is an operational park. Come on, guys.
Well, that I have to give him. I have to knock him for that, because that was just for convenience. It's a plot convenience.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Well, and there's times where like the walkies aren't working, but her cell phone is. And I'm going, what kind of walkies are you using here that they're failing where a cell phone is getting a signal?
Right. And then cause interference. Apparently.
Yeah, right. That's what it is. They put out radio waves. So they realize it's inside. One of the workers, Grady and one of the workers, goes running for the door they came in. The other guy, the big guy, says, "I'm getting out this door. It's closer, and I don't run fast." So he opens up the big door,
the main gate,
and it gets out. It eats the one guy. That was kind of funny, as the guy's sitting there, like on the ground, as it knocked the car out of the way. And he's just sitting there, and it's right over him, and he just kind of looks at Owen with this resigned look, like, "Oh man," like he gets this look on his face. Jump!
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, he's like, "This stinks." Jump! And then Masrani at this point is in the control room, and they're all freaking out. We gotta kill it. We gotta evacuate the park. He's like, "No, look, the existence of this park is predicated on their ability to handle incidents like this," which, as we learn, is non-existent.
Well, he's not wrong, but he's the only situation in which he's wrong is the fact that this is not a dinosaur,
right?
And I think that's the important part of that statement, because he's absolutely right for any other situation that would be going on in the park. It's in this particular case they're not dealing with a dinosaur, and that's what really makes that weaponized string of plot work all the way along.
And then we get this scene of the animal capture unit, this military unit whose job is to bring in any animal that gets out. So they have protocols and policies. I like the fact that we have these ideas that they kind of demonstrate to us that they've thought through these things. They have protocols that fall apart, that don't cover dinosaurs like the I-Rex. And this team gets in there and they realize it can camouflage. It knew to tear out its tracker, and it ate the whole team. And seeing each one, their vital signs that are being transmitted go off, boom, 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 boom. I mean, that was pretty scary. And then we get, Grady says to Claire, "Call off the non-lethal capture mission, go in, guns blazing, kill this thing." And she says, "You're not in control here," which is ironic given that neither is she.
Nobody is.
Nobody's in control here.
I think maybe the Indominus Rex is in control here.
Yeah.
And Grady said, as he walks out, he says to Masrani, "You need to have a talk to your people in the lab. That's no dinosaur." And again, emphasizing this idea that this is not a dinosaur; it's a weapon. It's something new.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So Masrani confronts Dr. Wu, and Dr. Wu says, "Hey, you can't have an animal with exaggerated predator features without the corresponding behavioral traits. In other words, you want bigger teeth, you're going to get an animal that wants to bite more things. It's going to be an aggressor."
I love that scene. I feel like that it's, maybe you could say it's like hitting it too hard, all the different themes, but like you said in the first movie, Wu is he's like a nice guy. He's giving him the tour and he's like, "Look at the dinosaurs." And that could still be true, but he's doing something crazy and incredibly dangerous. And that, I guess, that hubris really comes through in that scene. It's like, this is what we do, and we're going to keep doing it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, yeah, you've seen the logical conclusion of becoming like God in creating these things is that
Right.
Inevitably it goes too far. When you take that step beyond and start playing God in a very real way like this, you're going to go too far. That's human nature.
Masrani says you've created a monster, and Wong is kind of like he's kind of taken aback. Like, what are you talking about? To a canary, a cat is a monster. We're just used to being the cat. Like, of course, you're calling it a monster. That's because it's bigger than you. If you were more powerful than it, then you wouldn't think it's a monster. And you're like, yeah, dude, it's scary.
That's something that comes up in all these movies I think is interesting, is that sometimes, like, is the dinosaur a bad guy or a good guy? And, like, the T-Rex is treated as a bad guy in a lot of these movies. Then suddenly he's the good guy. And the raptors the same way. I just think it's interesting. On one hand, we treat the dinosaurs like they're just doing what they do, but they kind of get characterized or humanized at different points in the story.
But in the end, they're just animals. They're just creatures acting out of instinct and whatever intelligence they have. They're their own moral agents in a sense. So we have this scene of the boys going off in the gyrospheres, which I think the gyrospheres are kind of awesome.
Super cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And I'm pretty sure I haven't watched Fallen Kingdom yet. I know I should have, but I haven't watched it yet. When I realized we were going to do the movie with it, I thought I'd wait. But we'd do an episode on that. But the gyrospheres show up in that too. But they're really cool. I wish we had something like that today. Like, again, that's something I would drive around in a jungle or whatever, just for fun, like without dinosaurs. That would be really cool. And with Jimmy Fallon as the host of the instructional video,
yeah,
that was kind of fun. That they, again, a big corporate thing. They'd bring in the celebrities, that sort of stuff. That felt true.
And it's like writing a ride at Disney, where you go through and Ellen DeGeneres does the voiceover or the narration for it. And,
right.
Yeah.
I liked when Claire suddenly remembered her nephews in the midst of all this, like that dawning moment of horror on her face. Where are they?
See, and this Claire's character bothers me so much throughout this movie because I really feel like the corporatism is so overplayed for her, like the numbers thing is so overplayed for her that you really miss out on a humanizing element to her. And I remember the big complaint about her running around in high heels. Like that was like the big news item was like, oh, her running around in high heels. But there was some of that to it where just like it felt like she was a trope continuously.
Yeah.
And that moment could have been a really great moment where suddenly she turns on, like the mothering nature turns on when she wants to protect these kids. But every single time you see her, it seems more like she's just concerned about making sure that nothing bad happens to them because it would be horrible for her relationship with her sister.
Right. Well, and then she didn't get the John Hammond moment from the first movie where he stops like what is her name? Ellie, like says to him, John, our loved ones are out there. Alan and the kids are out there. And he gets this look at this moment where he stops caring so much about the dinosaurs and starts caring about the people that matter to him.
Right.
And she doesn't quite get that moment.
No.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So we get this scene of the boys encountering the Indominus Rex. They get pinballed between the armored dinosaurs. I'm not sure what they are. And the
ankylosaur. The ankylosaurs.
That's right. Oh, it's coming back to me from my being a kid. Although I have to admit, I still call them brontosauruses. I'll always call them brontosauruses.
They'll always be brontosaurus.
Yeah. And we get this moment where Owen and Claire encounter the dying brontosaurus. And she gets this realization that this is her moment where she at least realizes that they're not just assets, as she keeps calling them, but they're living, breathing creatures. But it's also a moment where Owen realizes the Indominus Rex isn't hunting, it's killing for sport. And that's scary, especially. And I wonder, is that a little commentary on big game hunting by people, maybe? I wonder.
Could be,
yeah. Let's see.
I think there's a lot of times where we're forced to confront the fact that this thing is intelligent in a way that animals aren't intelligent. And that's what makes us different from animals. And so they blur the lines there between it just being an animal and maybe being more than an animal.
Right. It would not quite so different from it in some ways. The boys find the old Jurassic Park building I'd mentioned before, and so we get this kind of fun little moment where they're walking around. It's all overgrown, and they're walking around inside, and they find the old banner that came floating down at the end of Jurassic 1. They find that, and he turns it into a torch with the dino bone, and they find the Jeeps and the let's ramp up the implausibility factor again. They get a Jeep that's been sitting in the jungle for 22 years running again. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not happening.
So one of my kids made a good observation here, though, because they asked, wait a minute, why is everything blue in the park? And I said, well, it's because they're trying to differentiate themselves from the old park. Right. But it is a really interesting point that the old park was all red and green, and then this park is all gray and blue.
And in fact, the Larry in the operations center at the beginning shows Claire his old vintage Jurassic Park T-shirt, and she's like, "That's in poor taste. Don't wear it again." Like, we don't want to remind anyone of that bad thing that happened. We all pretend that there was no thing where the dinosaurs ate everybody. So that was interesting. So Hoskins proposes using the raptors to hunt the Indominus Rex, but Masrani says no. Instead, he puts this Gatling gun that they have in the armory on the chopper that he flies, and flies it himself, even though he's a student pilot. Who's the guy in the seat next to him? Like, why is that guy? Is he not a pilot? Like, why is
Where was the person who was supposed to pilot this helicopter?
Right. Well, he apparently took off for the ferry when they called the evacuation or something. They said, it actually sounds like he made it. Well, that was the move to make because he'd be dead now.
Well, so, I can see cutting corners here, and that's what I tried to come back to. Okay, look, they have this place so locked down and so secure that they started cutting corners on the military grade, ACU, because you didn't need it. Like, honestly, they had everything so set up, they didn't need it. And so you come back to the fact when they start shooting at the thing, it's a moving target, guys. You shoot ahead of the moving target, not where the moving, and that bothered me so much. I'm just like, come on, this guy's supposed to be military trained and this is what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. He's shooting behind it. So the boys get the Jeep started. Just before this, the boys get that Jeep started. They take off just as Grady, Owen and Claire show up, and then they get cornered by the Indominus Rex and manage to escape from it and run back to the place while the boys have to drive a Jeep a long distance. I don't know. We can ignore that for a moment. The Indominus, as it's being chased by the helicopter, breaks into the aviary where all the flying dinosaurs are. They get out. They take the chopper down in a gruesome way that was not good. And then they fly off toward the closest food source, which is the park and where the people are. And then the boys. Here's another one of those moments where we have a callback to the first movie. The boys are in the Jeep. They're driving down the road. Oh, phew, we got away. And then one of them looks in the mirror and sees a dinosaur approaching and says, go, 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 go. And they downshift and speed off. So that was a fun callback.
So I have two issues with these dinosaurs. Yes. And it bothers me. And, as a person who knows dinosaurs or who likes reading about dinosaurs, this kind of stuff, it definitely bothers you. One of them is the one with the creepy little T-Rex head.
Yes.
It's so weird looking. Like, the way it's put together, it's so weird looking. They're just like, what even is this thing? And then the other one is the flying dinosaurs were almost invariably fish eaters.
Right.
And that was their shtick, is that they ate fish. So for them to be flying through the park and even think of the people as targets, regardless of the fact that their size is way off proportion for what these things would have been eating, right? It's just
they're not real dinosaurs. They're creations in the lab, right?
Exactly. Not real dinosaurs, genetically engineered.
Yes. We need them to be scary. If they're eating fish, they're not scary. So then we have the scene where Zara, Claire's assistant, gets killed. She gets picked up by one of these and dropped into the big mosasaur pool and then eaten by the mosasaurus. And I thought that was genuinely horrifying. I don't know, that one was a death maybe too far for me. I don't know.
Out of all of them, I would say so. Yeah, absolutely.
There was something about that was too much.
I think it's not just her in this movie. If you think at least of especially the original movie, the people that died or got hurt were either being heroic or were usually bad guys that kind of had it coming to them for some reason. And this one is just like a buffet of innocent people. And that, I think, particularly her, like, people laughed at it in the theater. I was like, that's not really,
that's
really
not funny. Yeah. She's the first woman to get eaten by a dinosaur in the movies.
In the series, really?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
I guess she is, isn't she?
Yeah. All the others were, like you said, like some of them were handlers or people who work in the park. Some people being heroic, like Clever Girl from the first movie, that sort of stuff, or bad guys. Yeah, she was the first woman. Just as a kudos, the actress did all of the stunts in that.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
So she got I saw the making of. They had this thing where she comes running up to the boys. The camera circles around, and as she's out of frame, they run up and hook a harness to her. And then as the camera comes around, that's when she's lifted up into the air by the crane, like jerked as you saw, jerked into the air. And then the whole dunking into the water thing, she did all of that. So kudos,
that's phenomenal.
Kudos to her for doing that. So Hoskins takes over. Masrani is dead, and he says, he brings in his people. They take over, and we're doing it my way. The kids now are with Owen and Claire. They finally got together, and as they've kind of escaped, they're sitting in this truck, and suddenly the kids go, she wants them to go back to the hotel or whatever, and they're like, this doesn't feel safe. Can we stay with you? And Claire's like, well, I'm never leaving you again as long as you live. And they go, no, we want to stay with him. We want him to stay with us, because Grady is so cool. And then Grady now goes on. He's convinced by Hoskins to take the Raptors out and go on the hunt for the Indominus Rex. So we have this scene of them going out there with the mercenary guys, and he's riding the bike. That whole thing we saw in the trailer, riding the bike with the Velociraptors through the woods. And when they finally corner the Indominus Rex, they start talking, the Raptors and the I-Rex. And it turns out, I bet there's raptor DNA in that I-Rex, and they can talk to each other.
And they foreshadowed that so beautifully. This time watching it through, I noticed that when he's laying under the car, the first time it gets out of the enclosure, it makes one of those noises. And it just kind of does that back of the neck croak thing. And you're like, oh, that was really subtle and really good.
Yes. And then when you see them all together, and it kind of lowers its head and does that head bob thing that the Raptors do. Yeah, that totally. So we have this scene where they turn on the guys, and Grady races off, and it turns out that we find out that Hoskins and Wu are in on it together. They were doing all this off book, and then there's lots of running around, screaming, and all that sort of stuff. And they get back to the control room, and they find Hoskins in the secret lab. And I really enjoyed this part. He starts his monologue about turning the dinosaurs into weapons and how this is the right thing to do. In the middle of it, Raptor shows up and eats him. Just like out of nowhere.
Just like that.
Yeah. That is pretty great.
It was funny. Like it was kind of turns that whole villain monologuing thing on its head. So then we get this. They're out in the big plaza. The Raptors corner them, and Owen gets them back on his side. He becomes the alpha male again, and that's when the Indominus Rex shows up, and the Raptors. There's this moment where Blue kind of turns to Grady and says, it kind of makes this head bob, like head shake at him, basically telling the humans to run. We got this. Did you catch that on this?
Yeah.
It was very clear to me.
Yeah. It really feels like there's and this again, it comes back to that kind of relationship thing where there's they really have accepted him as part of their crew. Maybe not quite in the alpha status that he wants to say he is, but they definitely accept him as part of their group. Right.
And so we have this big battle, the boss battle at the end here. And Gray has this great line at one point. He says, "We need more teeth on our side." That was a good line, because he's like counting the teeth on all the different dinosaurs. And so Claire decides she goes and lets the T-Rex out. And there's this really great visual where she's got the flare and the door opens and the T-Rex comes out of the shadows toward her. And she's just standing there. I'm like, run. You don't have to stand there to make sure he's chasing you. This is going to happen. And she starts running. He's way too close to her. And he comes running out and enters the battle. And we think that because the I-Rex has defeated the Raptors, so we think. And so the T-Rex gets into the battle, and then the Raptors come back. They drive it to the edge of the lagoon where the Mosasaur, king of the jungle, jumps up and eats him. Apparently this is something mosasaurs could do. They know that they could heave itself onto land and then slide back into water because they had those flipper things. And the T-Rex just walks away. Like the T-Rex isn't interested in eating them because it's not hungry. It's not the I-Rex. It doesn't hunt for sport, which is interesting.
But the mosasaur does.
Yeah, apparently. Or it's always hungry.
It's always hungry.
That whole scene of her getting the T-Rex, I thoroughly enjoyed that. It just it captured some of the like scariness and awe of when T-Rex shows up the first time in Jurassic Park. And and I like that this is the T-Rex. It's all sort of battle scarred and old, and
right.
That's great.
The T-Rex, I mean, the Velociraptors are the key to Jurassic movie, but the T-Rex is sort of the king of the jungle. You know, he's sort of always the one that's there.
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting about this one is it's clear skies, middle of the day, and I don't know how much that throws the effect of the horror into just kind of like a frantic, chaotic craziness, and how much of it was just the movie like kind of went overboard on itself. But that moment happens at night, and it really changes, like as they're getting later in the day, it really changes the feel of the movie a lot. And again, I don't know if it was just, okay, now we're getting back to kind of the roots of what the movie was about, or if it's just that it's not daytime anymore, so it doesn't feel quite as weird to have all these horrible things happening.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, because the scariness is when it comes out of the darkness. I mean, this is our human, 20,000 years ago, the things that come at us out of the darkness, that's the darkness is scary. And I think it also helps the filmmaking, obviously, because then they can film it on a sound stage and it doesn't have to look like outdoors. So, I think that's very interesting. So we have the family reunion at the end. Mom and dad are going to stay together now, maybe because the kids were almost killed and we're bonded. It's a Spielbergian moment. They may, in reality, whether that would happen or not. And Grady and Claire are, what's our next adventure? Obviously, in the next movie, they're going to probably start off not together because that's how they seem to do it in the Jurassic movies. And we end with the T-Rex atop the helicopter platform, king of all it surveys, giving its roar like it always does, and that's that. Yes. And then we fade to the to music and credits. And that's pretty much it. Although there was a short film that was made by Colin Trevorrow between this and Fallen Kingdom, the next movie that came out in 2018. Did you guys get to see the Battle of Big Rock? Did you see that?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's 10 minutes of a lot of fun.
Yeah. I like Colin Trevorrow. I really like his stuff. I enjoy what he does. I think that he's kind of suffering from where Hollywood is right now. And that the movies that I would like to see him make that I think he really enjoys are kind of getting pushed aside for the spectacle.
Right.
And you see that in this movie. You see there's this really great undercurrent that just it almost becomes a farce of itself. I don't know, have you guys seen the movie Adaptation?
Which one is that one?
It was
it's the one about the screenwriter.
The one about the screenwriter. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Okay. great movie. I definitely recommend it. It's not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of really sketchy, edgy stuff in it, but the movie itself, everybody hated it. In the movie theater that I went to see it in, I was laughing so hard because about midway through the movie, it just starts making fun of itself. And it's because it's this screenwriter writing a scene, and it goes very meta, like it goes completely sideways. And if you didn't see it go sideways, then the whole movie doesn't make sense. But if you saw it go sideways, it's a riot. It is really, really funny, and it just continues to unravel on itself. And I almost feel like that's what's happening with this movie. Like, as soon as the Dominus gets loose, it feels like the very tight knit stories and everything that was building just kind of goes
right, and
it's gone. And it's just how many different people can we kill? How bloody can it get? How crazy, wild? What other dinosaurs can we let loose? What are all the things that could possibly go wrong with this park? Let's make them go wrong. I don't know if it reaches that level of like metacognition where it starts looking at itself and criticizing itself, but you see that it's definitely lost control at that point. A movie. I
think it becomes clear that the stars of the movie, like the humans in this movie, are somewhat incidental.
Right.
That in fact, I think I saw Colin Trevorrow once say that the stars of the movie are the dinosaurs. Like literally anything that the humans are doing, they're just in the way. They're just to be stepped on and occasionally munched on. That the dinosaurs are acting of their own volition, doing what they will throughout this. And I think there's a bit of a meta moment there of this franchise has sort of eaten itself. It's become bigger than the humans making it. And that's how movie franchises in Hollywood become, as they become bigger than the people who make these. Maybe there might actually be something of that in there. So
it's the best way to view it. I in my opinion, like when you start looking at it from that perspective, it makes that whole second half of the movie make sense.
You're
like, this is crazy. This is really crazy.
So, in the end, like one of the things I was going to mention with the Battle of Big Rock is it if you haven't seen it, go check it out on YouTube, and I think it's even on the Jurassic World YouTube channel. It's again a 10-minute professionally, just like it's like a mini feature film, really well done. But really what it conveys is the idea that the dinos are out. The dinosaurs are out in the world, interacting with human beings. And again, we're no longer we're the canary. We're not the cat anymore. And what does that mean? And I think, from what I understand, this is part of what comes up in Fallen Kingdom, maybe?
I think it takes place after Fallen Kingdom, just looking at the...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think it's and I haven't seen Fallen Kingdom yet either.
Right.
That makes three of us. All three of us.
Good.
Good.
So we have only seen these 4 movies at this point.
It's interesting that none of us have seen it, even though all three of us are fans of Jurassic Park. I mean, part of it is it has often taken me a long time to get to the movies to see a movie, given that I have a bunch of kids. But and getting out to the movies is tough. But also, I think the initial reviews and people talking about it made me think maybe I don't want to ruin my what I love about so far. I'll still see it. I mean, it's different I think to see it in the comfort of my own home, knowing that it's done. It is what it is, and there's another movie coming that may save it, the franchise.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But it'll be one thing. What I don't want is to do the thing where we jump ahead 50 years. It's a post-apocalyptic world. The dinosaurs rule. The cities have fallen. Humans are living in caves, hiding from dinosaurs. You know what I mean? That whole Planet of the Apes sort of thing.
Yeah,
that's one
thing. Really great.
Yeah, I'm not
There's
sure
a really great dragon movie that did that.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Reign of Fire. That's the one.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, I don't want that, because Jurassic Park at its root is a movie about awe and wonder. And humility in the face of something greater than us. And I think that's one of the things that makes a great Jurassic Park movie great, and makes the lesser ones less so, because they lose sight of that. And so I'm really hoping that they can salvage the franchise like that. But it's interesting, that idea that it wants to tell us, be full of awe, full of for the world around us, be full of wonder, see the world like a child in innocence, but a little bit wary.
Yeah,
and
respect.
Yes, respect the world around us. Don't not worship it. There's no sense of we worship the dinosaurs, or that they're somehow our betters, but certainly respect the world around us. Respect it for the majesty that it is. It's neither good nor evil. It just is. I mean, it's good in the sense of its creation, and it's God, and who created it, and it continues, but it doesn't have a moral component in the sense of evil dinosaurs. They're just dinosaurs. They're just creatures, just animals.
Well, I think, and one of the interesting things too is like the fact that, and you see it in this movie, that science is great when it explores the simplicity of the world. Yes. And we realize that in its simplicity, the world is very complex and very dense and very wrapped up and dangerous when we start to add complexity to it that wasn't there. And that's one of the great things about it. Like you see in this movie, that it's the dinosaurs. We've lost wonder in dinosaurs. How do we do that? Because as humans, we want to say, can we do something else to make it even more, can we
make it
can
better?
We stick lasers on their head, and like, why? Why do we need to do that?
Yeah. Why do we make it cooler, quote unquote? Yeah. I did the air quotes. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll continue our walk through the Jurassic Park movies. Our next one will certainly be, I don't know if it'll be the next thing we do on this podcast, but we will talk about Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom sooner than a year. Certainly, yes. we will do that. And so we'd love to hear from you, and I do want to encourage you that if you have anything you want to say about this movie or any of the Jurassic movies, to let us know by commenting. You can comment on the show posting at sqpn.com/secrets. or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or you can send an email to secrets@sqpn.com. I do want to stop and take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Movies and TV shows, including this time Anthony M., Andrew E., Christopher V., Natalie B., and Cesar T. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Movies and TV shows and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So, until next time, Thomas Sanherho, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Jurassic World.
It was very nice to be here.
And Father Michael Gossett, thank you as well.
Can't wait till we're back. Yeah.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Movies and TV shows on StarQuest.